Buenos dias, Charlotte here, coming to you from beautiful Cenote in the middle of the Yucatan Peninsula, about an hour and a half from Tulum, Mexico. Cenotes are one of my favorite natural features in all of Mexico and perhaps in all of the world. So I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about why they exist. So cenotes can actually be traced back to the asteroid that extinguished the dinosaurs. Thousands and thousands of years ago, an asteroid named the Chicxulub impactor hit a town called Chicxulub, Mexico, at the tip of the Yucatan Peninsula and formed a pretty massive crater that extended, covering most of the Yucatan. Over time, sedimentation built back up a cover of land over the Yucatan, and little by little, groundwater runoff, rainwater, formed little pockets in the limestone, causing the limestone bedrock to collapse and form these beautiful sinkholes that we now know as cenotes that we can swim in and enjoy the natural beauty of. So this one is called Cenote Samal. It's very beautiful, features some pretty cool waterfalls. So let's go have a swim and check it out. So I've actually never been to this cenote before, but a friend told me about it and I find it particularly beautiful. A couple of years ago, I lived in Tulum for about a year working remotely during COVID, and I checked out every cenote I could because I think they're just so beautiful and a very peaceful and lovely place to swim or read a book for a while. Like I said, this one is called Cenote Samal, and I find it so cool because of the waterfall feature, the big cavernous opening up above, and such a large area to swim in. But you might not want to swim in the same spot in a cenote for too long because they also contain these black little fishes that are kind of like catfish, I think. And if you're in one place for too long, they'll start to eat the skin off your toes, which can be a little ticklish and funny. So I take a dive, cliff dive if I'm allowed to, swim around and generally relax and enjoy the place. Isn't this beautiful? So when I visited here many years ago, there weren't as many cenotes that required you to have life jackets. This one does now. Kind of lame, but we'll deal with it for the sake of a beautiful swim. I've got my jacket, put my bag away in a locker, and it looks like there's a fun place to jump in as well, so maybe I'll get a little diving in. Like I said before, cenotes are actually sinkholes in the limestone bedrock where the earth has fallen away to reveal a freshwater pool underneath. And what this means is that some of them are completely open with huge cavernous openings, and others are just a little pinhole with a huge cave underneath, and some of them are even completely closed off. The ones that are almost all closed or completely closed are usually full of bat colonies, and that can be really cool. If you go in or you're one of the first people to walk in a cenote in a given day, you can see like whole families of bats flying around the top of a cenote. They make really cool noises. Since this is their natural environment, they're not particularly shy about humans, and they're just pretty cool to observe in the cavernous cenotes, that is. And something interesting about cenotes as well is they're so plentiful around the Yucatan that if somebody comes in and wants to build a new house or resort or something, you actually have to check the land before you buy or build on it to make sure that you're not just doing your building project on top of a cenote that could collapse underneath you at some point. So these are little hidden wonders. Some of them have been around for a really long time and are popularly visited, and others are being discovered almost every day. So perhaps the most eerie and interesting fact about cenotes is that according to both Mayan and Spanish post-colonial sources, Mayans used to sacrifice objects and humans into cenotes as offerings to the rain god Choc. So things like jade, precious metals, stones, and humans were sacrificed into cenotes. And we know this because mostly in the 60s, divers were sent into some of the more prominent and well-documented cenotes, and they excavated valuables of all sorts as well as human remains. So thankfully that practice doesn't exist still to this day, but it's just an interesting piece of history to demonstrate how significant cenotes were to the religious and spiritual life of the Mayan people. So my first exposure to cenotes was in 2018 when I came to Tulum to pursue my scuba diving dive master certification. And my favorite diving experiences were actually in closed cenotes because they have stalagmites and stalactites coming both up and down in the cavernous cenotes. You have to actually dive with a line attached to you and flashlights because there's no light penetrating in the interior of the cavernous cenotes. So you have to enter in, time the air that you're using, and then exit back out using the line that you've been laying the whole time. And it's just otherworldly in there when you're diving and there's like pillars coming up and down and you're trying to be very, very delicate as you make your way through these ancient caverns. It's just the coolest alien landscape. I absolutely loved it. The first cenote I ever dived in was called Dos Ojos, or Two Eyes. And of course, it's named that because if viewed from above, it looks like a set of two eyes. Now, those two eyes are the only visually apparent part of the cenote. It's actually a cavernous system that extends very far underground, and you can dive for hours underneath. In fact, some divers bring multiple tanks of air with them and will dive for an extended period of time. The whole of the underground system is mapped out pretty well, and actually my dive instructor was one of the prominent explorers in the Yucatan Peninsula who contributed to the thorough mapping of all the cenote networks. Over 900 kilometers of cenote underground caverns were documented and discovered by my dive instructor and his team. All right, that was super fun. This is now one of my new favorite cenotes. I especially love jumping off the sides and diving underwater. Thanks for watching today. Hopefully you had as much fun as I did, and see you next time.